subject matter, which is equally interesting. Basically, I'd like to introduce Vijayamohan and Rajesh from Expleo. So Vijay, yeah, thanks for being here on the forum. We're going to talk about automation, which is by and large a very loved subject in the insurance industry. Much talked about. I pretty much assume almost all organizations are doing some kind of robotic automation, or machine language, to use a jazz word there. Just a quick word of introduction. Vijay has over 30 plus years of experience in the financial and IT services industry. He's successfully driven multiple digital transformation programs for global clients. He's spearheaded multi-country rollouts of core solutions involving complex migration from legacy systems. He's an agile DevOps evangelist and an expert around that. And his core domain strength are primarily in the financial services industry. And he's considered to be the thought leader driving platform solutions spanning entire software application lifecycle. Good to have you here, Vijay, and I would need your help in introducing your colleague Rajesh to the forum.
Sure. Thank you, Bala, for the introduction. Like you said, it's going to be a very interesting topic. So before I just start with the introduction of Expleo and all that, I would like to introduce our fellow panelist. I think a very apt person for this discussion. It's Mr. Rajesh Krishnan, who is the Chief for Customer Service and Operations for Pramerica Life Insurance India. He's an industry veteran. He started his career first in banking before switching on to insurance. And he's very passionate about technology. And it's not just technology he's passionate about. He has with multiple interests, mastery of 7 languages, and I think he's picking up more on the way. And in addition to that, he's very avidly committed to various social causes. So thank you, Rajesh, for joining us for this discussion.
Thank you, Bala. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And before we start, I just would like to give a short introduction of Expleo. So we provide multiple services when it comes to consulting, quality assurance, software development, as well as engineering. So we are truly global with clients across the globe, and we have offshore as well as nearshore and on-site delivery model. And we have specific regional hubs for the offshore delivery. When it comes to Asia, we have clients in the Middle East, India, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, to name just a few. And one of the things that really brings value to our clients is, first of all, our techno-functional approach. We strongly believe that it's the domain that drives technology, and that is why our technical delivery as such is driven by domain SMEs. And that's a key factor which helps us to really sync up with our clients' requirements. A second aspect is the fact that we are in multiple verticals, like I said. It ranges from aeronautics, automobiles to the financial services industry. So it's pretty diverse. And as you are all well aware, when it comes to technology, some sectors are well ahead of the others comparatively. And that helps us to bring us the best practices from multiple sectors into the other sectors. So that is a key factor. These are the key factors which really help us to deliver. And now when it comes to the financial services, a key focus point is, of course, the insurance industry. And if you look at our service delivery in the APAC region, we deliver a number of services ranging from conventional quality assurance, functional quality assurance, to performance engineering, to intelligent process automation, software development using low code, no code. So it's a wide range of services that we deliver. And that brings me to the first question regarding the insurance industry. Now, we have been associated with the insurance industry for the past 3+ decades, I would say. And we are partnered with all the major players in the industry. And comparatively, when you look at the insurance industry, it has always been regarded as very conservative when compared to, say, banking in terms of adoption of technology. But what we have seen in the last 2 decades, especially the last decade, is a very dramatic increase in the adoption of technology as far as the insurance industry is concerned. We've had in certain regions like India, we've had the privatization also playing a role. We've had fintechs coming in. All this has really dramatically changed the industry. And Rajesh, you being a very active participant in this journey, how would you assess this journey and the maturity level of the insurance industry today with respect to technology, various aspects of technology like automation, etc.? And how do you see the road ahead for the industry?
Yeah, thanks, Vijay, for asking that question. I think when you speak about 2 decades from a technology standpoint and the technology advancement standpoint, it actually appears like a few light years away, isn't it? Because that's a kind of advancement we've seen, especially in the last decade that we've seen. What used to be happening earlier in 1 year, today it's happening in a matter of few days. So just to put that in context, I would like to share a personal experience. When I joined the BFSI industry in a new age private sector bank way back in 1997-98, the first assignment that was given to me was to popularize or create awareness around the newly launched internet banking for the bank. And people are not heard about the banking unless you walk into a bank branch and do your activities and transactions. So I was given a set of high net worth individuals database, and they said just go and meet them and you explain to them what internet banking is. So while it's a first assignment given to a fresher, you can't say no to it. The learning has been very, very interesting. When I went to talk about it, before even I could talk about internet banking or anything of that sort, the first question was around how does one buy a computer? So what does it, what configuration, what does RAM mean? What kind of a hard disk space I should have? Then if I have a computer, then how do I connect into your internet banking? What does that require? So from an Indian perspective, the time that I'm talking about just had one internet service provider, which was a government run one. So I had 2 brochures in my hand. One was at that particular time, what was considered to be a very popular computer called Compaq. I don't know if that company even exists today. Some of you would have heard about it. And the second one was the service provider called VSNL, who had various tariffs listed. And it was, unless you have really arrived in life in that time, you can't afford. That's a kind of a tariff that you had. So first you need to sell hardware. And second, you'll have to sell a internet service providers plan. And then you talk about how you can do the internet banking. So it's been a very, so why I'm taking you back to that is to see that, how far we have come from a technology point of view. Today, if you fast forward into 2021, these looks like prehistoric, what I'm talking about. And today, all the solutions, applications, and offerings of technology are all device agnostic. You do not even need a device. You can access these from any kind of device. You don't need to really buy a hardware. So given that kind of a situation, and the fact that the newer generation who are your future customers or the present customers are all born in the technology era, you do not have a choice but to adapt to the digital way of doing business. And that's precisely the way of doing it. Coming back to comparison of insurance industry vis-a-vis banking, obviously banking was early adapters to that. But when it comes to insurance industry, I think there has been several instances or examples that we know about globally. While you can always say that a relative comparison, it may not be matched with the banking, because in banking, the number of transactions involved are far higher, so that you need to be up on that stream of things. Whereas in insurance, it's a low touch kind of a product, but the requirements do come in from the back end. So I'll share my perspective about where technology comes in insurance. In my view, everybody in the organization, every function that you're talking about is a stakeholder in insurance. I would broadly like to classify it as 4 particular use cases. One is the core of insurance. It's about risk management. So pure risk management perspective, understanding who your customer is a very important aspect before you take the life into your books. So it's a very important part of the insurance business, the core of insurance business, to understand the elements. So technology can really help us to know that who is a bad customer, who is a good one, and which lives to take and which one not. And if you can identify it at an early stage, you will have much lesser problems to deal with throughout the day. The second aspect it comes is towards a claim stage. So these are the 2 particular stages in which you see more of fraud happening. As much as technology is advanced, even fraudsters have become far more sophisticated. So from an insurance industry perspective, unless you are up in the game and constantly watching what's going on in the market and come up with solutions, that can become an obstacle in your doing business as well as impacting your bottom line. The second part is a regulatory driven. As we know, data privacy is a very big topic around the world, and many countries are today coming up with data privacy laws. So that's a good example to quote, saying that there are countries who come up with regulations to have your data to be kept in a particular country, or there are countries who come up with laws to ensure that you don't show the data visible to a lot of people, or you need to store in a particular way. So these are regulatory driven, so that this is more a compliance angle than anything else. So that's the second part wherein the insurance companies technology use case happen. The third one, in my view, is a big favorite topic for me, which is called customer experience. In customer experience, you can have two modes. So the first one, where we can provide a customer experience, is the onboarding experience. And today, as technology is advanced, more and more people want to have things in a simple way. Insurance being a product which is a push product rather than a pull product, and it continues to remain that way. There is a distance it has to yet cover. So the customer is always at the edge, and what brings you an advantage over somebody else is how simple is your onboarding process and how fast can you get it. Because today's times when people's time are at a premium, and this can make a big difference to you. The second part of the customer experience journey is on the self-servicing part. So the traditionally servicing is something that one has to walk into a branch. I'm yet to come across a customer who says that my favorite time pass is to call a call center. You reach a call center only when you are in dire straits. Can an insurance company think of providing solutions which the customer is trying to reach a call center for, proactively even before the customer has a need, which will create a positive experience. Similarly, walking into a branch, in a diverse country like India or anywhere else in a large country, you can't have put up brick and mortar shops everywhere close to where your customers reside anywhere. So you can't even expect them to walk in and into your branch and get your service. So these two precisely brings in a huge business case for insurance companies to provide self-service solution, and how we can make things easy in engaging with these customers sitting wherever they are. And no better instance than pandemic, which has really taught us that this has become a necessity. The last and the fourth one that I want to talk about is around customer data analytics and customer segmentation. Very powerful thing to do. So today, if you do not understand your customers, there are multiple perils attached to that. But one of the biggest advantage and quite not understood by many is the power of your own data, which can actually result you in a massive upselling or a cross-selling opportunity with your client. Considering that the life insurance is a product which goes on in long term, around 20 years, 25 years, a human being's life stage changes throughout this particular time period, which means that an insurance company who have products right for someone who starts early in their career till someone goes up to the retirement, since you have products across the life cycle, this is a very powerful tool available in insurance industry. If you capitalize it well, it can generate tremendous amount of business within, and also to seek references. So customer service to me is the biggest sales tool available. And the more the industry understands it, the more it will get benefited. Vijay.
Yeah, very astute observations, Rajesh. And you were mentioning about the pandemic also. Of course, that is a topic that we cannot escape today. And especially when you look at the clients that we are servicing, a lot of them, the services they've taken are around process automation and intelligent process automation. Right now, it is transformed into hyper automation, that a term that Gartner has coined to include process automation, AI analytics, and so on. Now, many of these clients which we have have been there for the last 4 or 5 years. But there were some behind the curve as such, and the pandemic has really hit them hard, and this need for this process automation has been really realized in the industry. So what is your take on the impact of the pandemic, especially around these aspects? And since you're from the field of customer service and operations, it's especially a key area for you.
I think almost everyone on this forum who are listening would have gone through a particular joke which was circulating a few months ago. Who transformed? Who's your chief transformation officer? So you don't have to explain that. So I think what a pandemic has done, so we'll talk about the good side of pandemic and not the other one, is that so we had different kind of people, let's take an example of, someone who who's a professional swimmer, who's an amateur swimmer, and who doesn't know swimming at all. What the pandemic has done is just thrown everybody into deep waters, and we just there is no choice. There was no safety guards, nothing available. So that's precisely what happened with the entire world and across industries. It doesn't mean only insurance industry. If you go back and see, read most companies' business continuity management manuals, hardly anybody would have prepared for this kind of a business continuity appearing. There's a need appearing for this kind of a eventuality. But the good news is that there's hardly who's not survived. Even the one who didn't know swimming also have reached the shore. So I think in an organic way, nobody would have taken a stand of this nature, and it also accelerated what could have been perhaps taken in an organic way. A 10-year project was actually completed in a matter of 10 days. So that it is always the technology was available, the opportunities are available. It is just a matter of willingness, and the pandemic made us think through that and made us do into that. So, for example, from an insurance perspective, let's talk about onboarding. While how much ever digital advancement that we do, traditional industries like insurance, especially life insurance, it's still a good part of that is done by face-to-face interactions. Now, a significant part of that particular channel is no more available. So suddenly you have a lockdown scenario in front of you, and you cannot meet your customer. Now, what's a choice? But if you want to show business, you'll have to end up adapting to digital technology and nothing else. Thankfully, most of the organizations were already having it. Actually, there are different stages in which they were. People all built their technology, and for them it was a little easy that you have to just only convert the remaining people who are not using the technology into that. For others, they had to make the technology happen in a very short time. Otherwise, there's no business numbers that will be shown there. But I think everybody has gone into it, even customers. For example, it's actually the transformation, I would say, along with pandemic, it was customer driven as well. Because even if you say that I want to come and see you, many customers say, don't come and see me. You tell me whatever you want over a video call, or you complete your transaction over a video call or a phone call. Don't come and see me. That being the case, I think pandemic has been, that's a good side of pandemic that I see. I think all of us have transformed and think very differently from what we used to do pre-pandemic.
I think it's great to see such a feedback. I think we need to look at the positive side of everything, even something as horrible as the pandemic. So I think that's a good takeaway from you. Other than the pandemic, actually, for the past decade, especially, what we have seen is that a major reason for automation, for example, in multiple areas is the agile revolution. So we have had agile and DevOps coming in a big way over the last decade, though it's been around for a couple of decades. And if you look at even as recently as 2014 and 15, I still recall that some of our clients were still primarily on the waterfall SDLC. But today, if you see our clients, even in the insurance industry, all of them have either adopted completely or in the process of adopting agile and DevOps. So that's been a fundamental shift, and this need for speed has actually driven automation. especially in multiple areas. And another interesting fact is that it has also been realized over the last 5-6 years, especially, that it's not enough that if you just have software agility, you need to have the business agility also, and especially around the flexibility as far as the organization is concerned, especially around innovation. These are aspects that have now come into prominence. Now, looking at the insurance industry, how well do you think this concept of business agility has been taken up? Because from our perspective, we have given a number of consultancy services to clients where business agility has been prominently pushed, and we have helped them to make a complete transformation from the organization perspective also. So we find this is a very critical factor. How well do you think that the insurance industry has adopted this business agility concept, especially when it comes to being flexible as an organization and being innovative?
Vijay, my personal take is there is no doubt about anyone not understanding the need to be having a business agility. It's what it boils down is a few other factors about what life stage an organization is and what their priorities are, what kind of a business projections that you have, what kind of cash flows you have for investment in capital, etc. So given a choice, I don't think anybody will say no to it. It's a question of deferring rather than not doing it at all. And the approach of Agile and DevOps is the way to go about it in a very dynamic world. You can't follow the traditional approach of an SDLC, which will going to take you a lot of months to complete, etc. Because by the time you come up with a change or you come up with a new product, you already have probably the reason why you started it itself do not exist. So agility is definitely the key, whether it's in business or in technology. So to do things at the speed and taking your products to speed to market is very, very important. Considering that there is a tremendous amount of competition within the industry, even outside, even within financial services, etc. Everybody is fighting for that share of wallet from the customer. So the ones who are having speed to market, once you can come up with products as quick as possible, turn ideas into implementations as quickly as possible, would always have the edge over the others. And to me, answering your question, there's no doubt that that's the way to go about it. While insurance industry cannot be compared with somebody like a retail, for example. In a retail industry, the dynamism is of a very, very different scale. While things don't change as much in an insurance industry at that particular pace, but having said that, it's something that cannot be ignored, because the ones who do it first will always continue to have an advantage. And today you have technology support available that you can make changes on the go without even your customer realizing that there has been a change. And that's a power that technology is bringing. There is no more shutdowns and there are no more maintenance. I think these are words which has gone by in most cases. And it's brilliant from a customer experience point of view. You don't even realize that I got the new version and I got the new features.
Yeah, I think that's very important points. I mean, I think the impatience of the customers has also played a major role in this, because clients are very impatient now. They want everything done very fast. So I think that's a major driver here. And coming to this impatience, one area which has really boomed over the last 4 or 5 years, like I already mentioned before, is the process automation part, especially robotic process automation and the intelligent process automation. Now, given the type of customer service that is required in the insurance industry, especially around claims, those are the areas that we have seen process automation being adopted, and we have helped in the consulting as well as implementation of this for clients across the globe. Now, what is your take on this as far as customer service is concerned? Do you see the scope for further growth here, and do you think it's making a genuine difference as far as customer service is concerned?
Yeah, so RPA bots are great tools. They're a boon from a customer experience point of view. The power that it can do is RPA certainly supports scalability, because you can't have the human resources growing in proportion of your business growth. Eventually, it will start hitting your bottom line. It's not a scalable thing. plus anything that is repetitively to be done and anything that is very predictable and it can be done, it's all possible through RPA today. And the RPA technology is also growing so fast, and it has become much more easier for people to configure your RPA requirements on your own. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is a time that's coming in future, hypothetically speaking, that maybe everybody's job will just become tuning RPAs. Just will, you're being given a given a basic build, and you say that, okay, just do it according to your thing. So everybody is sitting and making software robots. And on the customer side, when I spoke about the self-service, I think bots are a great tool to have, because your majority of the requirements can be solved through chatbots, which are coming up far more realistic today than it used to be talking to a machine. Because I don't think today, because I heard one of the bots last week and I couldn't even realize that it's actually I'm talking to a machine. And if that can take care of your, say, whatever percentage you can talk, say 70%, 80%, the kind of ROI an organization can expect is tremendous. Then you just focus on the core area where you really require human intervention and manage it through exceptions. I think RPA is a great case, Vijay. When it comes to repeated, we ourselves have used it many times, and it can bring in predictable accuracy and scalability, and especially things that involve regulatory or governmental mandates with no timeline flexibility available. These are great tools which can actually come in handy.
Yeah, one interesting aspect of this is that generally when we go in for an IPA or RPA implementation for a client, we adopt a consultancy-led approach where we actually assess them from the maturity level of the enterprise and plan at an enterprise level and help them to implement it stage by stage. This is what most of our enterprise clients have done very successfully and continue to do. But there is also an aspect that certain clients also look at automation, whether it is RPA or any conventional automation, in a very narrow view in the sense of a project or a program. And automation usually brings its returns in a gradual manner, especially when it comes to IPA and other such aspects. So do you think that there is a need to understand this? And do you think that this approach, that a short-term approach versus a long-term approach, is something that should not be thought about at all when it comes to an ROI? Should it be just an enterprise level as we are proposing? Is that what is your thoughts on these aspects?
My personal take on this is you are into the long-term business. So obviously some of the insurance industry understands very well that the actual profit comes at a later stage and not immediately in the first few years. So I think the same concept appears here as well. So one has to understand where to invest, and maybe the ROI will come later. But what it does to a company or an organization is that it prepares you for scale. It gives you the ability to scale up at a later time, because scalability obviously brings bottom line advantage at a later time. But if your question is around, why is not everybody thinking like this, etc., I think the answer lies in the stage of an organization, I would say, priorities of an organization at that particular time. I don't think anybody thinks about not to invest in these, and everybody understands it very well, the advantage of that as well. But it just depends upon the particular life stage, and it's a case of prioritization is what my view is. The cash flows, the business projections, and what kind of a business are you foreseeing to come up? If you're going to grow only 5 years later, do I need to spend that money now, or can I kickstart from, say, year 4 onwards? If I have an immediate priority, then I would want to come and invest in that as well. So it's a question of it's a variable things. It's about dynamism is around capital, cash flows, business projections, and obviously the intent and the willingness and priorities for the management all put together.
Yeah, I think that's a very pertinent point to be underlined, that business priorities need to drive technology and not the other way around. A very, very pertinent point, I would say. And coming on this, another drastic difference over the last decade, I would say, is the explosion of data. Now, it's been said that over the last few years, we have created more data than in all the previous human history. Now, what is your thoughts on data? Because especially for life insurance companies, you are sitting on a treasure trove of data. Now, is this data being utilized to the maximum extent? We are seeing a number of clients for whom we have helped with data lakes, and even the data mesh is coming into the picture, where we have helped them with predictive analytics and other aspects of the data. Do you think that this is being looked at in a holistic manner, because you now have challenges on the regulatory front also when it comes to data privacy? Do you think that there is a holistic approach that the insurance industry is taking to this?
Vijay, I don't think anybody understand the power of data in a lesser way than what it should be. That's definitely not the case. Different organizations are at different stage of utilizing this particular data. I wouldn't say that everybody is right up there in terms of understanding data. And also, if we look at it, who's got the most powerful data, in terms of database, the ones who started early is obviously sitting on the maximum database, your own customers' database. Are they the ones actually utilizing it the best? Probably yes, or probably no. Some of them are, some of them are not. But then who's utilizing it the best? The ones who come last, where you do not have a baggage of a legacy systems, you do not have to turn around, because they are more hungry for it, but unfortunately they are not sitting on much data. So it's a very paradoxical thing. But given the fact that, but those kind of companies who are coming later, who have a digital first approach, etc., they are consuming data from the market and what is available in the industry, and rather than their own data. But then I personally believe that legacy companies have a massive advantage on the data if they invest well in the data analytics side of it, understand your customers well, segment your customers well. It not only provides a great platform for you to manage your risk better, because insurance is all about managing risk. So it's not only about understanding your risk better, you can come up with decisions around whether I want to relax a certain policy, or do I want to tighten certain areas? Where do I need to be cautious, where I can be a little more liberal? So all these instances it gives. And the point that I spoke earlier about, one of the areas which hasn't got the required attention that it deserves is the power of cross-selling and upselling. If you understand your customers very, very well, there is enough business sitting in you rather than you have to go out in the market and try to get it. And if you can combine this with understanding your customers through data and providing a great customer experience through customer engagement tools and providing a great customer service, this can actually be a great combination for you to generate enough customer references from within, even without stepping out much. That's you can't be the 100% tool, but it can play a significant part which has not been utilized. There are I wouldn't say it has not been utilized. There are organizations they are doing it, but the scope of this to become a bigger channel is far higher than it is.
Very interesting points. I think also very pertinent to the industry. An interesting point that you talked about is the legacy companies as well as the modern companies. And one of the aspects, especially when we looked at our clients and when we introduced hyper automation and other such technical approaches, is that the need for change management is something that we have really seen, and that's why, as part of our consultancy, we provide the change management services also. And this is something, this is becoming, which is very topical in all sectors, and especially insurance, which is evolving at such a rapid rate now compared to what was previously there from the technical side. This change management is a key aspect that we have seen to really help the organization transition and move forward. So what is your take on this? Do you see change management as critical, and how do you see change management should be approached by the insurance industry?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. You need to have a change management policy in every organization, because your business environment is not static. That's clearly the business case for you. if you had a static business environment, then you say that I don't want to have a change management. When your business environment becomes so dynamic, you don't have a choice but to have a change management policy as a priority for every organization. Now, what kind of a change management policy works? Is it just to have a policy or not? So there are two ways of looking at that, in my view. One is a big bang approach, as we know. Typically, I would say this kind of an approach is more suitable for companies who are into disruption. Someone who's just entering a market and you come up with a bang and you just shake off everything and doing it. So someone who's entering the market at a later time than their competitors, typically we've seen such strategies coming up, and you come with a loud noise, and then you can't sustain it as we go along, because you would have perhaps exhausted all your energy around in the first one. What's more sustainable and what's more appropriate for an industry like ours is to have a consistent integration policy, consistent delivery, and a consistent testing. So this has to be the part of the policy, which is keep doing small little things in a consistent way over and over again, so that what is relevant for the customers, for the business, keep doing that as part of the policy, rather than making very, very large changes at a particular point in time. So once you have a policy where you consistently invest and implement over a period of time, that augments well for this industry than a big bang approach. So
very precise points from you regarding change management, and I'm sure a lot of people will be listening to that, and taking up those points. I think we are running out of time, and I would like to just wrap up with a final question, picking on the something that you spoke about in your initial answer regarding how when you joined the industry, you had to approach your client with a manual of software and tariff rates and all that. Do you think that today that to be successful in the industry, your profile needs to be different? You need to have certain skills that you did not have, say, a couple of decades ago. What does this change as far as the skill profile is concerned and what do you need to be successful in the industry today?
Oh, definitely. I think the history will teach us more than anything else. You just go back and see 10 years ago, what kind of skills were required to be relevant to be in the industry, and you look at what is relevant today, and you probably have enough data and notes going around to see that what would become relevant 10 years ago, 10 years later. So if you look at in a span of the last 30 years itself, you will see that there are hardly any things which are in common. Now, I can't think of a situation where today someone's saying that I don't know how to operate a computer. Okay. And how many such jobs are available? Or for that matter, more relevant to today's time, I don't know how to operate a Zoom or how to operate a Microsoft Teams meeting. If someone says that I don't want to, so small little skills which do matter. And business environment is evolving, technology is evolving, the way of doing business is evolving. Like I mentioned earlier, maybe it's a possibility in future, hypothetically speaking, the main job available across, say, a customer service operations kind of roles will be just to configure your RPAs. You've been given something, you've just given a platform, you just set and configure and let the robot run. So in that case, that becomes a skill. So evolving continuously is definitely something that one must do and be relevant for the current times.
Thank you, Rajesh. That was very insightful. A lot of interesting points. Do we have any questions, Bala?
Yeah, I think
Rajesh?
Unfortunately we don't have much time. So what I'll do, Rajesh, if you don't mind, there are two questions, one from Andy Young and the others from Ashish. I'll get this across to you, and we will take it offline and I'll get the answers back to them. Okay, thanks for the session. Very useful, Rajesh. My key takeaways is, firstly, right, we have a new chief transformation officer in town called COVID, okay, who is actually sort of, creating a cascading effect in digital adoption. That's the first one. The second thing is the vital point around organizational stamina. it's not what you do in bursts which actually matters. It's doing small things consistently over a period of time, and the stamina, the organizational stamina. I think that's the key takeaway. I mean, any digital transformation is something which runs over for a period of time. So I think while we need to know where we are going, I think the journey actually matters, and it's small steps which actually is probably going to help us a lot. That's the second takeaway. And the third most important takeaway for me was fundamentally around organizational maturity. Why do people do what at what point in time? When do I adopt what? Is fundamentally dictated by where you are in your maturity scale of 1 to 5. And it's also always about constant prioritization, and digital maturity is always about organizational maturity as well. Yeah. I think I'll try and close the session with these 3 takeaways. And thank you, Vijay, and really appreciate having you here, Rajesh.
Thank you, Bala.
Thank you, Bala. Thank you, Rajesh.
Okay, have a good day.
Stay safe. Bye.